The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
You're listening to Better Live Than Dead.
I believe it's a big challenge for our building to keep things in perspective and to, if we're going to get addicted to anything, let's get addicted to the process.
Victory Tuesday!
And with that, we welcome you to episode number 32 of Trust the Podcast, powered by Better Live Than Dead and the Gear Radio Network. We are talking Week 10, Buffalo Bills at the New York Jets, a Victory Tuesday podcast. Although we're recording on Monday for the first time in a long time because it just so happens we must have had the hint that some big news was breaking. But before we get to that, I am Ryan Wolfe at WolfeBLTD, currently ill with the bubonic plague, it seems like. Being joined on the IndyCar Media Hotline by the self-anointed biggest Jets fan, the favorite Jets fan of the Bills Mafia, whatever it was.
Bills Mafia's favorite Jet fan.
You got it. John Cimino at the JC Money joining us on the IndyCar Media Hotline. How you doing today, buddy?
Ronda Rousey and Stephanie McMahon are so hot. I don't care. Oh, I'm good, Ryan. I'm good. I am sitting here trying to make sense of the abysmal, on my end, abysmal game that I witnessed. I'm sure, the Bills Mafia and all of my Bills friends were very, very happy with seeing something from the team after having, essentially an entire season of having nothing. But then, those same Bills fans, once it got to like 30-3 or something like that, I started getting the text messages like, okay, this is uncomfortable even for me, man. I'm sorry. Yeah,
Just to kind of refresh you really quick, the Bills, I wrote down in my radio form, the Bills grounded the Jets because you know how the puns are always.
Oh, yes.
Hot and heavy here in a podcast, 41-10. But for me, John, I mean, as much as the Bills looked good, the Jets did not look like they wanted to play at all.
I said this last week on my podcast, and I caught I don't want to say I caught a little bit of flack. Brandon, my co-host, disagreed with me a bit, and some Jets fans are kind of like, oh well, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. And then the Jets went out there and did what they did. The Jets are quitting on Todd Bowles. And in fact, the Jets quit on Todd Bowles yesterday. Now, part of that, obviously Todd Bowles, as far as a coach is concerned, he's well respected by by football people, but kind of like Rex Ryan, who was a respected defensive coordinator before he became the head coach of the Jets and ultimately the Bills, and now he sits on ESPN. Todd Bowles was very, very well respected and is very, very well liked, but that does not mean that he is a good head coach, and he has made some coaching blunders. And I think what really happened was after the loss to the Dolphins last week by the New York Jets, mind you, the defense kept them in that game pretty much the entire game. It was the offense that was, quite frankly, taking a page out of the Week 1 Buffalo Bills or the Week 2 Buffalo Bills. They weren't getting anything done, and you have that. You take that, and then Todd Bowles at the press conference afterwards says, well, I wish we got a little more out of our defense. Yeah, the defense kept them in the game until the fourth quarter. It was the offense who wasn't doing anything. So I had been reading reports from anonymous sources, and, those are about as reliable as Wikipedia. But you read and you hear these things. You hear that Bulls might lose the team and whatever, and everybody assures everybody it's fine. And then you go out there and you play a Buffalo Bills team that has just been getting the crap kicked out of them every week. For lack of better terminology, I know this is the Bills podcast, but I mean, they were getting the crap kicked out of them every week. They brought in a guy who 2 weeks ago was on the streets, not doing anything, started him. So that was their fourth starting quarterback of this season already. They had a veteran running back in Shady McCoy that hadn't had a touchdown all year. He got 2 of them yesterday. Made Matt Barkley look like the second coming of Jim Kelly. Now, the Bills Mafia is probably going to love this guy even more because we had breaking news just before we got on here, Ryan, and I'll leave it up to you because you're the man, dude.
Yeah, man. The Buffalo Bills cut backup quarterback Nathan Peterman. Finally.
To the surprise of nobody,
six
really.
Six people, maybe. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to cut him from my fantasy team too. I'm gonna have to sign him just so I can cut him and say I did it too.
That'd be great. That'd be actually hilarious. In 8 career games, 4 starts, Peterman goes 1-3, a 52.3% completion percentage, 548 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, a 9.2% interception rate, which is one of the worst in history, I believe.
Oh yeah.
He's just one of those guys where he said all the right things. He did all the right things, but on the field, he was just overmatched, and that's really how it'll end up being.
Right. He was not, and I can't blame. And as much as funny as the Nathan Peterman jokes are, and where I call him, I affectionately call him now, just like Jim Rome does, Nate Pete, and all of the things that he's done on the field or not done, depending on which way you look at it. It's kind of not his fault, really, that he's not an NFL caliber quarterback.
I mean,
and also keep in mind too, keep in mind too, he was what, a 4th or 5th round draft pick a couple of years ago. I mean, not everybody's a Tom Brady. Tom Brady going, at the 6th round, that's an anomaly. Those things don't ever really happen. So Nate Pete kind of was put in situations where, he was maybe 2 or 3 years away from maybe getting a start in garbage time of a losing season, a losing season game. And he just got thrown out there way too early. So you were right. He was overmatched, but I mean, hopefully this guy doesn't give up on his dream. There's going to be, a new football league starting next year, right after the Super Bowl, the AAF, and, XFL and arena football, if that's even still a thing. I'm pretty sure it is, but CFL, if this guy really wants to play and really wants to prove that he is who he is, there's plenty of football out there now for him to do that. And if he really loves football, maybe we'll see him back as a backup or a starter for the Jets in 2 years.
Wouldn't that be something? I mean, for me, I think it's This is like, John, when we talked about a couple weeks ago about how the Bills have all these things that they can do this offseason because they have a lot of ammunition, but you have to trust that they're able to make the right moves. I look at the Nathan Peterman ongoing situation as one of those things where clearly he was not good enough for the job, but they kept forcing him into that role for whatever reason it may be, whether they felt comfortable with him but knew he couldn't do it or whatever. But clearly, Sean McDermott loved whatever Nathan Peterman brought to the table, whether it was he was a good company guy or he was a good. I mean, a lot of people say it's because he loves God and troops, which, hey, maybe that's the case. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. So Sean McDermott loves the troops.
Well, but, you know how you love to read Twitter sometimes or whatever. Well, I posted the alert of the breaking news. The Bills have released quarterback Nathan Peterman on my personal Facebook. Here's some of the replies I got here. So I'm going to, say these to you and see what you think. All right. Your brother, the incomparable Eric Emanon, about effing time in big capital letters. Brian Musto, who is probably like the 10th biggest Bills fan I know. I feel sorry for the guy. He's a good dude, just snake bit. Couldn't catch a break at all. I sincerely hope he gets a second chance with another team and develop into a serviceable quarterback. And then there's Kevin Muir. Welcome to New England, the heir apparent to Tom. NP2, the GOAT 2.0. And then following that up and closing that out, your mother actually writes, thank you. And then Super Beast, indie wrestler in the area, writes, sad reacts only. So there we go.
Here's the thing. If with Nathan Peterman, I feel like at the end of the day, yes, they pushed him into a bad situation. Being a Buffalo Bill for the most part is a bad situation. But then again, you look at it and whenever the Bills gave Nathan Peterman an opportunity, he never really did anything with it or did enough to show that he even deserved another shot. But they kept giving him another chance because they really had to. They put themselves in that corner. I mean, I'm glad we are PP now. We are 1 PP post Peterman. And we'll see how the Bills turn out after this bye week. I mean, they've got the entire week for Josh Allen to prepare to start, which is likely going to happen against the Jaguars, which we'll talk a little bit more about next week on the bye week podcast. But just transitioning over to our three big things of the week.
Yeah, and thanks for sending me that, Ryan, by the way.
You're welcome. The first thing, I mean, talking about Nathan Peterman lost his job just as much as Matt Barkley got himself a job. I mean, 2 weeks ago, Matt Barkley was unemployed. We all thought it was just a cry for help when they picked him up and said he's going to start. But 15 for 25, 232 yards and 2 touchdowns. Again, I understand it was against the Jets, and they've got their own thing going on. But for the first time in a long time, it felt like Buffalo had a real quarterback under center.
It really did, and it was kind of weird because just as angry as I was watching the Jets completely roll over and just letting them steamroll him, I was just as intrigued by the Matt Barkley story. Now, some of his throws just did not look pretty at all. Had he gone and I don't know, had the Jets had not had that blow up with the Todd Bowles and all that the week before, and they played, even half of the team came to play, I think we would have seen a different Matt Barkley because he's not a good quarterback. But yesterday, like I said, he looked like the second coming of Jim Kelly, and I don't know if that's just rest. I don't know if that was adrenaline on his part. I don't know if it was the Jets just laying an egg or a combination of all three. But either way, he played himself into the role that Nathan Peterman now doesn't have. So kudos to him for that. Very, very, very smart on his part. And I saw a stat yesterday. The Bills paid him basically for that game $47,000. I'm rounding just to an even number. It wound up being $47,000 to pay to pay Matt Barkley for that game, and the Jets paid $150,000 for that game to Josh McCown.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you saw the huge difference. And even the announcers were talking and saying Josh McCown had said himself, I wasn't expecting to play at all this year. And quite frankly, it came out that he had to be talked into coming back. Not terribly talked in because he wanted it. He liked the team and everything, but he was seriously on the fence of retirement. And then, they got Sam Darnold and they kind of became close, and he's coaching him up. But Darnold is slowly kind of like regressing a little bit, which, he's a rookie quarterback. I guess I expect that, but $150,000 to a guy that was like, I'm 3/4 in the bag anyways. I don't really care. Yeah, crazy stat.
Not a bad day at the office for anybody involved, win or loss. But I do want to point out that Robert Foster, up from the practice squad, 3 receptions, 105 yards, no touchdowns. And Zay Jones, 8 receptions, 93 yards and a touchdown. Both looked very comfortable with Matt Barkley on Sunday. Hopefully a sign of things to come for when Josh Allen returns. He's got a couple wide receivers he can work with who are young, fast, and talented, and we'll see where they go from there. But, John, the one thing I want to point out to you, with Matt Barkley's start on Sunday, the Buffalo Bills have started 4 quarterbacks in the last 10 games. Now, Peter King points out that the Chargers have started 1 quarterback in the last 10 years.
Right.
I know I know you can manipulate stats to how you want them to be, but that's crazy.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's absolutely crazy. But Phillip Rivers is double tough, when you're talking about Los Angeles / San Diego, the Chargers. I mean, Phillip Rivers he's just double tough. I mean, and one of the things that, in fact, as well, was touched up on in the podcast last week. My podcast was actually the durability of Phillip Rivers and how we looked fondly kind of back on the game in the AFC Championship game in New England when he tore his ACL and he still played and gutted it out and played and they almost won. And had it not been for LT being injured, kind of sulking with the cloak over him on the sidelines that game, who knows what might have happened there. The Chargers got lucky in the sense that they had Drew Brees and they had Phillip Rivers, and they were able to, when it went down with Drew Brees, did they want to stick with Brees or did they want to go with Phillip Rivers? For them, it was that was a good situation to be in. Now you look at, in comparison to Buffalo, I mean, they don't have that situation and never did because they're, last few choices at quarterback were not really good. It was more kind of the splashy, flashy kind of things like EJ Manuel. And nobody thought there's not too many people that thought EJ Manuel was going to make it into the, be good in the NFL anyways. And the Bills reached to get him at number 1, like seriously reached, like he could have fell to number 2. And look at him now, he's not there. And, I mean, who are some of the other ones that the Bills have picked up in recent years that just haven't panned out that I can't? Lossman, it was another one.
There are so many quarterbacks that
there's so many of them, and
you actually forget about some of them.
Right, exactly. And I go back to the whole Tyrod thing. I honestly think they should have kept him. They should have kept Tyrod Taylor. They really should have. And I hate to say I told you so, Bills fans, but I told you so when it came to it. Tyrod probably would have been out there right now still, and perhaps might have been a little more. I don't necessarily say it a little more competitive, but it could have gone with the process part of it of keeping Josh Allen on the original plan, sitting him and benching him. And worst case scenario, Tyrod were to get hurt or play pretty poorly and stink up the joint, you have Allen ready to go. But they didn't do that. They gambled, and quite frankly, this past game aside, they failed with that. So hopefully, like I said, hopefully Allen's the guy. I really like him, and I really like his stuff. His arm is just gigantic. It's just he's just got a hell of an arm, and it would work very well at the cap during the wintertime. But yeah, you compare the Bills quarterbacks thing to the Chargers. That's a crazy, crazy stat. One guy the entire time.
I mean, looking at it too, the Bills obviously have had they went into the season with the mindset that the offense was probably going to be very poor. The defense which is now the league's best defense, yards per game wise. They're number 1. They took over the Ravens on Sunday. The defense has been everything they've wanted the defense to be. Now they have to go around next offseason and do to the offense what they did to the defense. Find players who can play and all that crap and fit in well to be better. I mean, you don't have to be the best offense in the league. If you're middle of the road, you can probably make the playoffs easily with a defense that's that good. But the one thing I do want to point out is our second big thing of the week, our stats of the game. It worked well last week. It worked well this week. It seems like whenever the Bills play, John, they're setting records. Now, the Bills followed a 30-point loss with a 30-point win in consecutive weeks for the first time in franchise history. The 63 swing and positive point differential in consecutive games ties the Bills' single-season franchise record. That's per NFL Research on Twitter. Per Buffalo Bills PR on Twitter, only 199 yards allowed against the Jets. The Bills held their opponents to less than 200 yards in consecutive weeks for the first time since 1999 in weeks 2 and 3. And then per Mike Rodak on Twitter, 313 yards in the first half was the most in the first half since at least 2001, and the first time since at least 2001 that Buffalo has had at least 4 offensive touchdowns in the first half of a game. And then a quick stat from the Buffalo Bills about that Deion Dawkins touchdown reception.
Deion mother Dawkins.
First touchdown reception by a Buffalo Bills offensive lineman since guard Mitch Farrat did it in 1992. Good stuff right there.
1992. Mitch Farrat. Oh my goodness. I remember that name.
I was going to say it's the jokes were running rampant on Twitter on Sunday that Deion Dawkins had as many touchdown catches as Kelvin Benjamin did, which
Kelvin Benjamin. Bills.
No one has hurt their. No one is
such a waste.
Yeah, no one has hurt their impending free agency more than he has.
He really is such a tool. He's such a waste. I'm sorry for Bills fans that have to deal with that clown, and I'm sure when he's gone, there's not going to be a documentary on local Bills television, or John Miller is going to interview him on One Bills Live or anything like that, or dedicate any time to him. He's just, wasn't there a play? Was there not? I was drinking heavily during there, but I believe there was a play where Barkley threw to the end zone, the corner of the end zone for him, and he was right there, and the ball was there for him to grab, and he did not catch it.
He just stood there, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just kind of like, what the hell was that all about? Like, he should have caught that one. And he just kind of looked and he's like, oh, my bad. And it's like, shut up, you tool.
Yeah, Kelvin Benjamin has not done himself any favors this season. And seeing a guy like Robert Foster show up, who was brought in, cut, put in the practice squad, worked his way back to the roster, and had a real good showing on Sunday. I mean, it's at the point now where the season's over. The Bills are 3-7. You know, news alert: they're not going to the playoffs.
Neither are the Jets.
You got to go out and get those kids time and see. At this point, you got to use the ability. You've got what is it? 5 more weeks after this to figure out 6 more games.
Absolutely,
to figure out who's coming with you, like that scene the scene in Half Baked, where he said, "I'm out of here. Who's coming with me?" That's the Bills, man. They got to figure out who's going to come on the roster next season, because a guy like Robert Foster may earn himself a job in these last few weeks.
Well, I can tell you what, there will probably be a head coaching vacancy in New York. So if any of these coordinators do good, you never know. They might be making their way down to East Rutherford.
You never know, man. The Jets love to hit the reset button. They're becoming the new Cleveland Browns, where every couple of years they're like, it's not working. Let's do it.
I know. Well, I mean, if they let go of Todd Bowles, I'm kind of on the fence with this. Like before, I would say, well, just get through this season. You're not going to get much out of them, and they're going to have a ton of money in cap room, and they're going to be able to purchase players to fill in and whatever, and make the team better and overpay people and yada yada yada. And if they do that, and then they don't do anything, then fire Bowles. But Rex Ryan, believe it or not, on Get Up this morning on ESPN, had a really good point. He said, what are you going to do? You're going to expect, even though you weren't expected to do much, you laid an egg in probably the most embarrassing performance in New York Jets football history. And then what are you going to say? Wait and give him another shot when he has a whole bunch of money on the cap and see what he does. He goes, well, that's what happened when he took over for me. The Jets didn't spend any money in my last year, and I was gone. And Todd Bowles came in with a whole ton of cap money, and he's done nothing. They ended up spending the money on, and they were talking about the GM there too. Ended up spending money on older players. And then what ended up happening is the season after that, they ended up cutting the Revises, and they ended up cutting the Marshalls and the Deckers and all that, and Fitzpatrick. And now we're just back to square one here. And he was like, and it's fine if you're going to be at square one, but if you can't coach them up, and you cannot, and you create some kind of issue within your team, then you're not going to get very far. And the way Rex Ryan was talking, he sounded like he was making a pitch, because he's hoping that they would fire Todd Bowles so that way he can make a pitch to come back, because apparently they like each other very much. So I'll tell you what, if that happens,
just time to retire and become a fan of someone else, huh?
Well, Los Angeles and their blue and yellow unis are looking pretty sweet to me.
Hey, the Chargers are looking real good. They are quietly fantastic.
I meant the Rams, but yes, the Chargers too.
You got to specify. There are too many. I'm sorry.
But no,
the two Los Angeles teams have the same color, and you reference. I'm like, okay.
Well, I'm when I say Los Angeles, I'm thinking of the team that Los Angeles wants, which is the Rams. Like, nobody wants Los Angeles doesn't want the Chargers. The Chargers could go 17-0. Los Angeles would not care. Or at least it would seem. But Los Angeles, though, is one of those cities. They're one of those like bandwagony cities. You know what I'm saying? Like, if their team is doing well, then they are all in.
Absolutely.
So like obviously it's a Laker town, but when the Clippers have been there forever, and the Clippers did crappy until they ended up, making some changes, and then they drafted Blake Griffin, and then they got CP3 there and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden they start playing well, and all of a sudden LA's a Clippers town. And it was the same thing with the Raiders and the Rams back in the days. And then when the Rams got there first, and, then the Chargers, you get there and nobody really cared about the Chargers. They weren't prepared for to have them that year. It was just, goodbye. Here's a Mayfield truck.
I think at the end of the day, LA would have been pleased if it was just the Chargers, but because they brought the Rams and the Chargers, they're like, we only need one team.
Exactly. Exactly.
Our third big thing of the week, LaShawn McCoy, quest for 11K. It's back on, baby. It's going to happen sometime. LaShawn McCoy, 26 carries, 113 yards, 2 touchdowns. He becomes the 54th player all-time with more than 14,000 all-purpose yards. He moves to 26th all-time with his big weekend, now has 10,472 yards. He's behind 25th place Thomas Jones, who has 10,591 yards, 119 yards behind him currently with that big game on Sunday. Also, quest for the highest pick if the season were to end today, and we know it doesn't, but if it did, the Bills would pick 6th overall. That is likely to change after tonight's Monday night football game with the 49ers and the Giants, which what a crap-tastical game that's going to be.
I'll tell you what, I tuned in just to hear because as much as there's been made about the national anthem and kneeling and standing and all that stuff. Well, they had General, what's his name? I can't remember. It's General something, sing the national anthem. And I absolutely love his rendition of the national anthem. So I turned it on for that. Like there's two people. There is two people when they sing the national anthem, I get goosebumps. That the General, what's his face, is one of them. And then there's, I can't remember the guy's name, but he does the national anthem at Blackhawks games.
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah,
every time, and those two when they're on there singing the national anthem, Captain Hackalong over there. It's
I'm dying over here, man.
I know you are. I feel bad. I feel bad that we're kind of I'm continuing the conversation, so to speak. I feel like you need to get off and drink, have your vitamin C and all that stuff. But anyways, two national anthem people, the General guy and the Blackhawks guy, and then after that and. I realized I remembered it was the Giants and Niners. I'm like, yeah, peace out.
Well, not to mention, too, there's currently very dangerous weather conditions because of the wildfires, the breathing conditions. It's very dangerous for people to be exerting themselves in that atmosphere, and they're playing football games. So,
of course they are. Well, it's all about money. The NFL prints it. So,
well, it's not. They say the NFL's not for long, but it's definitely not for long if you die because you breathe in smoke.
But hey, get ready for the AAF, baby! Right after the Super Bowl, I'm gonna have. I'm gonna joke. I have a joke, a running gag with my co-host, and it's the AAF. I'm all about it, right? He thinks it's gonna be a garbage league, which it probably will be. But either way, I'm hosting a theoretical kickoff party, and we're gonna be rooting on for our San Diego Fleet.
Hey man, that'll be great. Also, a quick update. As we're talking junk about it, 7-3 Giants over San Fran.
Who scored the touchdown? Was it Saquon Barkley? Are you still there?
Looking ahead to the bye week. Just because it's a bye week doesn't mean we're not looking ahead.
Can you hear me, Ryan?
I got you back.
Okay, got me back. Okay. There we go.
You dropped out there. I'm moving forward to look ahead. We can look ahead.
Okay.
To the bye week, man. I've been looking forward to this bye week for weeks now. Brought to you by 26 Shirts. Right now they are on Buffalo Volume 6, Shirt 1. Just watch it happen now. Available through November 18th. The latest shirt beneficiary, as mentioned last week, Units, who strives to be recognized. The recognized leader, the multifaceted delivery of exceptional donor-centered organ, tissue, eye, and blood donation services to the Western New York community. Ladies and gentlemen, we made it to the bye week. The Bills are 3-7. Take a deep breath. Watch another football game that's actually going to be good. Go see your family and friends. Go out to dinner. Go out to lunch. Do whatever you can. Avoid football this week. Refresh. Because the short second half of the season probably won't be great. But before you know it, it'll be the playoffs and the season will be over.
You know what? I would argue that the Bills have won the bye week already.
Hey, they did.
They beat the bye week with the score. What was Nathan Peterman's number? 2-0. 2-0.
2-0. They got rid of him, man. And I'll tell you what, it sucks to make fun of someone because he's a professional and he probably, by God, he's got a family, like JR used to say.
Mm-hmm.
But
absolutely.
Oh man, when you've had to live through it, it's like, it's like those movies when like the character dies and then wakes up and then has their day again and dies again and just keeps, like Groundhog's Day. Yeah, like that horror movie, Groundhog's Day horror movie.
Yes.
That's kind of what Nathan Peterman was like for a year and a half.
All right. Well, hey, and now it's over. So Y'all can move on, and we can,
God bless America.
Yes. God bless it. Indeed.
Well, with that being said, before I lose my voice, I am Ryan Wolfe at WolfeBLTD. You can hear the podcast betterlivethandead.com, iTunes,
Here,
Google
you
Play
know
Music.
what, Ryan, here, let me do that part for you, because that's very wordsy, and let's save your throat here. You can hear this and every other podcast on both BLTD Sports, the BLTD Sports Network, and the Gear Network. You can hear it on betterlivethandead.com, rather. iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Spotify, and wherever fine podcasts can be heard. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. Ryan, you may proceed with the rest of the close.
I appreciate you. At WolfeBLTD, that's me. John at the JC Money. Check us out. Trust the podcast. Enjoy the bye week, my friends. Go Bills.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.